Hello, Ron Rash. It's nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
The English students have chosen you almost unanimously for the next faculty spotlight, so congratulations.
Well, that's good to be well thought of.
Yeah. And they had some pretty random but interesting questions for you, so I'll go ahead and ask you some of those. But before we get started, how long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching at Western for 17 years, but I'm 67 now, so I've been teaching quite a while. I started off teaching high school, did that for 2 years. Then I did 17 years at a technical college. I did a year or a couple of semesters as a writer in residence at the University of South Carolina, Lenore Mine. So I've it's pretty much teaching's been a major part of my life.
Nice. So it sounds like you've been moving your way up from a high school
Yeah, slowly, yeah.
to university.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, let's get into some of these questions, and I'm going to start off relatively easy and get into the more thought-provoking questions as we go. So someone wants to know what you usually get at Subway.
The largest cup of tea that they serve. I think, like a lot of writers, I need something tactile when I'm working. Some unfortunately smoke cigarettes. I drink tea, just something to touch, and also the caffeine.
Nice. So no usual sandwiches, just a tea?
No, actually, I tend, when I go in, I probably got about 8 cups in my office right now. But if I do, I get a veggie. Yeah.
Okay, nice. And then this question popped up for the interview last week with Dr. Boatwright, but someone still wants to know, I guess from every teacher, do you believe in Bigfoot? And someone else asked, have you ever seen Bigfoot?
Not sober.
Okay. Good answer. All right. So what is your spirit animal? But I think this could be considered cultural appropriation. So let's say, what's your patronus or your kindred spirit instead?
I think that probably a speckled trout. Because it's the native, it's actually technically a char, but it's the native fish of Appalachia, the native, of the trout family, trout like. And it's always been very important to me, because one of my earliest memories was fishing with my grandfather on his farm near Boone, and I remember seeing how, the first time he caught one, how beautiful it was. So I think that animal has always been one that shows up a lot in my work, certainly.
Nice. I like that. And then a couple quick questions. Do you prefer sunrises or sunsets?
Sunsets.
Sunsets. And would you rather drink coffee or tea?
I tend to, it depends on the time of the day. Coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon.
Okay. I thought it might be tea because you mentioned tea from
Yeah,
Subway.
I like to pick up to a cup of coffee though, yeah.
Okay. All right. And I think I know the answer to this one because of a previous answer, but if you were a fish, what kind of fish would you be?
Oh yeah, a speckled trout, I think.
I figured. All right. So if your personality was an ice cream flavor, what would that be?
Probably vanilla.
Okay. And is vanilla your favorite flavor of ice cream, or do you have a different flavor?
No, I like pistachio.
Pistachio, okay. But you're a plain vanilla kind of personality.
Yeah.
All right. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. So what is your favorite place to eat in Silva? Does it happen to be Subway?
Oh, no. Oh, wow. That's tough. Mad Batter and, certainly Guadalupe, Lulu's. I'd have to narrow it to those 3. Yeah.
Okay. And let's see, moving into movies now. What's your favorite movie?
Oh, wow. That's such a tough one. Maybe The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is one of my favorites. Cool Hand Luke, one, and The Tree of Life.
Okay.
Terrence Malick.
Nice. I'll have to look those up. I haven't seen any of them. Now, what's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Unfortunately, I do not have one.
No.
I'm a big Star Wars fan. I never could get past the guys, being in the, that just didn't work for me. But obviously for most of the human race, but not me.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there, but hopefully that doesn't fall either one of us.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a favorite time period in history, and what is it?
Oh, wow. Gosh, that's a tough one. I'm fascinated with, favorite in the sense of just studying it, the period of the French Revolution. And because I think so much of what's happened since then is tied into to what happened in that revolution, both the good and the bad.
Now, I have a follow-up to that, but do you ever write about that time period?
Not directly, but certainly my study of it, and I've read about that period, about many of the characters, such as Robespierre, certainly has influenced the way I view the present when I do write about the present.
Cool. So now, hopefully this is an easier one, but what is your favorite month of the year and why?
Wow. Probably September. I really like as we enter. We didn't really enter it this year until about I think yesterday, but yeah, I like September. It's a nice month, particularly September.
Nice. All right, and let's see. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
Oh, wow. Does it have to be healthy?
No, not at all.
Fried okra.
Fried okra. Nice. That's my stepdad's favorite. All right, and if you could eat dinner with any 3 people you wanted, I assume living or dead, who would you choose and why?
Oh, wow. Probably Samuel Johnson, William Shakespeare, and maybe, I would say William Faulkner, but he wouldn't talk. Gosh, who would be the third one? Yeah, there's a writer named John Junot, a writer from France, and he's always been very interesting to me. So maybe those 3.
Nice. Would you be picking their minds?
I would try, yeah. Yeah, particularly Shakespeare. I just like to, he's the writer. I don't understand how he could be as good as he was. So it would be interesting just to get him to talk a little bit about his process or however he writes.
Cool.
Flannery O'Connor would be interesting, except she would probably be so mean. I wouldn't like that. I've got a picture over here frowning at me where I ride.
Serve as some inspiration.
Yeah, just keeping me humble.
Yeah. Nice. So if you could travel anywhere in the world, all expenses paid, where would you go?
Well, I've been there. France I really feel a connection to the French, their literary tradition, but I've actually been there. I would say I'd like to go to, I think Brazil. I would find that, I would love to see that world.
Nice. That would make for a good trip, I think.
Yeah.
All right. So now if you were given $1 million, how would you spend it?
Oh, gosh. Wow. I don't know. I probably kind of wanted to give it a lot of it just to worthy cause, some kind of conservation area, something to do with parks and, buying land up for land conservancy, that kind of thing.
Nice. I like that answer. And I think that ends the hypothetical questions. So now, what do you like to do in your spare time besides go to Subway?
Oh gosh, I'm a very boring person. I like to listen to music. I like to read. I like to walk. I like to fish. Yeah, those are the main things. I live a pretty dull life. A lot of it's just wandering around and mumbling to myself. But that's what you do if you're a writer. I'm not particularly, I'm not an extrovert, so I'm kind of happy when I'm kind of by myself, out in nature or reading or that kind of thing.
Yeah, that kind of explains your $1 million, the land preservation stuff too. Nice. All right, so I think you might have known this question was coming, but what are your top 3 favorite books?
Well, that is a tough one. I think probably the Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, because that book really was maybe the first one that wanted me to be a writer. I would probably, Shakespeare, collected Shakespeare, I guess you would call that a book. And probably after that, maybe, that's always tough after that, but maybe Moby Dick. That certainly is an important one for me. Sound and the Fury. Yeah, one of those probably.
Okay. Some classics then.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Now, what is your favorite book that you have written? Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I think as far as novels, I'd say Serena. As far as story collections, I'd say Burning Bright. Those are the ones that I'm least embarrassed by. Faulkner, not that I'm Faulkner, but he once said that Sound and Fury was the least of his failures. So I think that's probably a healthier way to look at it. That's the one that I can look back on and feel like that's as good as I can do, about as good as I can do. Yeah.
And Serena was turned into a movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, very bad movie. I think maybe it's, but that's okay. It got me some readers, and that I wouldn't have otherwise. And that was the best thing about it, probably.
Yeah, that's good. It's nice to look at the positives, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I've gotten this question a few times, but someone really wants you to tell them about the picture on your office door.
Oh, well, it's a photograph of logging in Appalachia, actually near Brevard, during the early part of the 20th century. And it's just a reminder of how huge those trees were. Anyone who sees it recognizes that. And that, to me, and one reason I think Serena's maybe the book I feel best about as far as novels is that people forget that if you had driven through the Smoky Mountains in, say, 1910, 1920, you would have been surrounded by mountains that had been raised, almost as if they'd been skinned. And I think we tend to forget that. And that particular photograph's a good reminder of what, particularly that virgin forest that we lost.
Yeah, and I'll include a picture of that in the Instagram post so that people can see it if they haven't.
Okay.
But all right, I guess they got their answer.
Yeah.
Now, who is your hero?
Oh, wow. Well, I've got a number of them. I think Friedrich Bonhoeffer, the German theologian who stood up to the Nazis, is certainly a man I view that way. Mandela, Joseph Mandela. I admire people who are brave when it really costs them to be. It's easy to pretend you're brave, but those people such as that, I think, kind of show us what we're capable of as human beings. As far as writing, certainly, I guess Shakespeare, as far as just the excellence that I go back to and can't imagine writing that well, but it's just nice to know that a human being could do that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, I guess it would be hard to narrow it down to one hero then.
Yeah. I mean, it's always the person that stands up at a time when few other people will.
Mm-hmm.
May Wiggins, a union activist in the 1930s, 20s in North Carolina, actually was killed, murdered because of her attempts to form unions. So people such as that who really put their lives on the line.
Yeah. And I think that maybe it's a stretch, but it kind of leads into the next few questions about teaching. I think teachers are can do that and put themselves on the line to build up those kind of people. So someone wanted to know why you decided to teach at WCU.
Well, they invited me. I mean, the hard part was making sure they, I mean, I certainly wanted to teach here, and for several reasons. I mean, one, because my family is so deeply rooted in this region. I mean, actually, in this very county, I had relatives in the 1700s.
Oh wow!
So, certainly, that aspect, the location, the fact that it was rural. I've always been more comfortable in rural areas. I wouldn't want to. I've never lived in a city and never would really want to. And it gave me an opportunity that I hadn't had to do as much writing. As I said, I was teaching high school and I was also teaching at a community college, and I enjoyed those jobs, but as they were very demanding as far as time, because when I was teaching at the technical college, I'd be teaching 5 classes a semester, sometimes 6, and mainly composition. So that certainly, the job up here was very good in the sense that because it was an endowed chair, I've had an opportunity to write more.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good reason then. And what's your favorite thing about teaching? Because I know you said you've taught for a long time. Yeah.
I think it's the student. I mean, I think it's connecting with the students. The great thing is it allows me to, at least on some level, believe I'm younger than I am. Because I'm always around younger people, but just the idea that what I think is important things, aspect literature that is something I think has a great worth for us as human beings. That I can transfer some of that, maybe some of that appreciation. I hope get the reader, encourage my students to read and write, and I hope, just let them realize that teaching for me and teaching literature is an act of communion.
Nice. I hope they feel the same way about taking your classes.
Well, I can't say that, but I think that I love it when I feel like I'm getting through, and that they're teaching me, because I think that's one of the great aspects of teaching, is that I learn from my students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you said that one reason you like teaching here is you get to write more. And someone wants to know what the hardest part about being an author is.
Well, I guess it never gets easier. I guess that might be, I mean, you get, at least you, I mean, if I've written, after I've written a novel or a short story, whatever, I know I've been able to do it once, but each time it's for me like starting over. I mean, it's all the doubts, all the sense that it looks hopeless. How will this thing ever cohere? Going through that, but you know, I just feel very fortunate that I've been able to do what I wanted to do with my life. I've had some success, and I think even if I hadn't, I've gained so much from writing that I would not have regretted it, even if I'd never published. I think it's a worthwhile endeavor just to understand ourselves and understand maybe the world around us by trying to observe it.
Yeah. And just for some context for anybody watching this interview, how long have you been an author? When did you publish your first piece?
I think I was, well, I published a short story in college. That was probably my first the college magazine. And yeah, I mean, I didn't write in high school or elementary school or middle school the way a lot of my friends who are writers did, but I was reading, so I was getting ready. I was learning my craft. But yeah, it started there. And then when I got in my mid-20s, I made a commitment that I'd rather attempt to do this and risk failure than not attempt it and never know if I could do it. And once I made that decision, the rest of it was pretty easy. I mean, I just knew I was going to see what I could do, and I was going into it long term. And for a long time, it didn't look like maybe the best decision, but eventually I got better. And I think one aspect that's, as far as writing, not giving up, not getting too discouraged. Those aspects are very often underrated. A lot of it's just an endurance contest. You keep going. And if you do it long enough, you usually will start to get better. As with anything you do, whether playing a guitar or shooting a basketball, I mean, it's practice, discipline. Not glamorous, but it's part of the process.
Yeah. So after all those years of you writing, that really puts into perspective how you said that it never gets easier.
Yeah. I mean, and that's okay. I wouldn't want it to be. I think if it started feeling easier, that would probably be a sign that I really wasn't doing the work I should, that I was merely, repeating myself or not pushing myself. So that's the other side of that too.
Nice. Now, do you have any advice for students or even aspiring authors?
Yeah, I think for any writer, if you want to be a really good writer, you have to read. I mean, you have to study people who are better than you are. And I do not know a first-rate writer who is not a voracious reader. And I mean, by that, I mean, and one should also read widely. Read the writers from South America, read Marquez, read Borges, read Achebe from Africa, read Baudelaire from France, read Mo Yan from China. I think that's really important, but also read writers from the past. Great writing remains great writing. I mean, anyone who's writing today is going to learn a lot about how to create a minor character from Shakespeare. And I think sometimes just reading during your time period is you're not really learning the tradition. And part of what you want to do is to break away from that tradition, to create your own way of perceiving the world. But I think it's hugely important to learn from the past as well as the present. Right.
Nice. Very good advice. Thank you for that. And before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share during your time in the spotlight?
Well, I'm just grateful to be here. I've had great students. I mean, actually, one of the best classes I've ever had in my life is this semester. And that's really nice to know that as long as I've been teaching, I can still go into a class and feel like I'm connecting and also being challenged because the group I've got this semester, they're so smart and so talented that they keep me really pushing. I have to bring my A game with them, and that's good for me too.
Yeah, nice. I hope that they're watching this then, so they
Well,
can that
I
from you.
brag on them all the time, so they, they're probably all hopelessly conceited by now. They have a lot. They've got a lot of talent. So it's been a good semester.
Nice. Well, it was a pleasure talking with you and learning more about your life.
Well, thank you.
All right. Have a nice day.